cannot find them alone. I need you.
And you don't have the decency to say why you won't help.
Nobody's hearing nothing.
Help.
Headed dead into the fire swamp.
The Princess Bride isn't just a movie. It's a fairy tale laced with sword fights, true love, and miracles. But beneath the laughter and adventure lies a hidden chest of secrets, untold stories that have been locked away for decades. Today, we're opening that chest, one jewel at a time. What you're about to discover will make you see this beloved classic in a way you never have before. Number 25, the casting gamble that nearly changed everything. The role of Wesley feels inseparable from Cary Elwes, his wit and charm turning him into the perfect storybook hero. But what fans don't realize is that he almost didn't get the part. Hollywood executives had their eyes on big names. Christopher Reeve, fresh off Superman, Sting with his rock star allure, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who at the time was becoming a household name. Imagine Schwarzenegger in the black mask, whispering, "As you wish," in his thick Austrian accent. It sounds unthinkable now, but it was once on the table. What saved the role was Cary Elwes's screen test. His delivery wasn't just handsome or heroic. It carried the sly humor and warmth that no one else could pull off. Director Rob Reiner later admitted that the moment Cary spoke, everyone knew the treasure they had found. Number 24, Andre the Giant's hidden struggle. On screen, Andre the Giant looked invincible. As Fezzik, he was the towering, gentle soul who could swat away enemies like flies and carry Buttercup as if she weighed nothing. But the cameras didn't capture his truth. Behind the fairy tale magic, Andre was battling acromegaly, a disorder that left him in constant pain. Every movement was a hidden struggle. In the famous scene where Buttercup leaps into his arms, the illusion was carefully engineered. Andre's back pain was so severe that he couldn't safely hold Robin Wright without assistance. The filmmakers used concealed cables to lower her gently into his arms, masking his pain with the image of effortless strength. Number 23, the legendary duel that was practiced like a dance. Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin trained for months under the guidance of Hollywood's greatest fencing choreographers. Day after day, they rehearsed every slash, every leap, every reversal. They weren't just memorizing moves. They were learning both sides of the fight so they could switch roles in practice and understand the duel from every angle. The result was choreography so smooth it looked like ballet. Rob Reiner even refused to use stunt doubles, insisting the two actors perform every strike themselves. When you watch closely, you can see the chemistry. Two men locked in a duel, but also enjoying the craft, testing each other, respecting each other. That's why the fight feels alive. It isn't just a performance, it's the culmination of months of hidden dedication. And the greatest treasure of all? At the very end, when Inigo says, "I am not left-handed," Mandy Patinkin later revealed that line carried personal meaning for him. The fight wasn't just about character. It was about pride, mastery, and the kind of secret detail that only years later would fans come to fully appreciate. Number 22, Robin Wright's secret ordeal on set. To the world, Robin Wright was the perfect Princess Buttercup, graceful, radiant, and every bit the storybook heroine. But what fans don't see is the hidden struggle she endured during filming. Wright was just 20 years old when she was cast, and this was her very first feature film. That meant she was stepping onto a set with Hollywood legends, Andre the Giant, Mandy Patinkin, Cary Elwes, and trying to hold her own while cameras rolled. But that wasn't the hardest part. The movie's famous fire swamp sequence pushed Wright to her limit. The mud pits, the flames, the rodents of unusual size, none of it was as glamorous as it looked. The quicksand scene, in particular, was terrifying. Wright had to sink into a trap that was actually filled with a strange mixture of fine-grained sand and water. If she moved too quickly, she risked inhaling it. She later admitted she felt genuine fear during the shoot, a fear you can still see flicker in her eyes when Wesley pulls her free. Number 21, the rodents of unusual size were not what they seemed. The fire swamp gave us one of the most bizarre creatures in movie history, the rodents of unusual size. But here's the hidden truth. Those oversized monsters weren't animatronics or special effects. They were real people in full-body rat suits. The filmmakers recruited professional stunt performers to climb into the heavy costumes, which were hot, suffocating, and nearly impossible to move in. One of the men inside was actually a convicted felon who had recently escaped prison. He was caught during production, creating chaos on set. The production had to scramble, replacing him with another performer without letting the cast know. This is why, if you rewatch the Fire Swamp battle, the R.O.U.S. moves with strange, human-like unpredictability. That's not CGI. That's a man sweating and struggling to stay upright inside a rat costume, sometimes losing balance mid-scene. Number 20, Mandy Patinkin's secret motivation. Few scenes in The Princess Bride carry as much weight as Inigo Montoya's duel with Count Rugen. His line, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die," is etched into pop culture forever. But what most people don't know is the heartbreaking secret behind that performance. Mandy Patinkin's own father had died of cancer before the movie was filmed. When he delivered those lines, he wasn't just acting, he was channeling years of grief, rage, and love. Patinkin later confessed that in that moment, he imagined he was speaking directly to the disease that took his father's life. Every repetition of the line was like a sword thrust at cancer itself. Number 19, the broken toe that changed the script. During one of the most playful scenes, Wesley is supposed to tumble down a hill, rolling head over heels in pursuit of Buttercup. What most fans don't know is that R.O.U.S. wasn't just acting clumsy. He was seriously injured during production. In fact, while riding Andre the Giant's ATV between takes, Carrie accidentally jammed his foot so badly that he broke his toe. Here's where the hidden magic comes in. Instead of halting filming, the injury was written into the performance. That iconic line, "As you wish," shouted as Wesley rolls helplessly down the hill, was delivered while Carrie was in actual pain, his voice strained with the weight of the injury. If you watch closely, his limp in later scenes isn't an acting choice. It's a real broken bone hidden under the fairy tale charm. Number 18. The kiss that was nearly lost forever. The Princess Bride closes with one of the most famous kisses in movie history. The 5 greatest kisses ever given, as the narrator calls it. But here's the hidden twist. The kiss almost didn't make it into the film at all. During editing, executives worried that the scene was too sentimental, too old-fashioned, too unlike the edgy tone Hollywood was pushing in the late 80s. They debated cutting it down or even removing it. Rob Reiner fought fiercely to keep it intact, insisting that without the kiss, the fairy tale had no heart. Even R.O.U.S. later admitted that he and Wright had developed a real off-screen chemistry during filming. When they kissed, it wasn't just acting, it was charged with genuine emotion. Number 17, the scene that made the crew cry. While the film is full of humor and swashbuckling adventure, there's one scene that carried so much emotional weight that even the hardened crew behind the camera couldn't hold back tears. It wasn't a duel or a kiss. It was the moment when Inigo finally avenges his father by defeating Count Rugen. Mandy Patinkin poured every ounce of his personal grief into the confrontation, and Christopher Guest, who played Rugen, had to react to an intensity he hadn't expected. Crew members later admitted that as they filmed the scene, they found themselves crying behind the cameras. It didn't feel like acting. It felt like witnessing something raw and real. Number 16, the true cost of Miracle Max's laughter. Billy Crystal's turn as Miracle Max is one of the funniest and most quoted moments in the film. His improvised one-liners were so outrageous that the cast couldn't keep a straight face. R.O.U.S. laughed so hard during takes that they couldn't use most of the footage. But here's the hidden secret. The laughter came at a heavy price. Mandy Patinkin, who played Inigo Montoya, laughed so hard at Crystal's improvisation that he pulled a muscle in his ribs. For days afterward, he couldn't breathe deeply without feeling pain. In fact, In some shots, he's holding his side just out of frame. The crew joked that Billy Crystal literally broke Mandy with comedy. Number 15, the script that nobody wanted. It's hard to imagine now, but The Princess Bride was nearly lost before it was ever made. William Goldman's novel had been a cult favorite, but when studios tried to adapt it, they called it too strange, too silly, and too unmarketable. The script was passed around Hollywood for over a decade, with one studio after another shelving it. At one point, the rights were even sold off and locked away, with no plans to produce it at all. For years, Goldman himself thought his story would never reach the screen. The hidden truth is that this movie we now call Timeless was once considered a doomed project no one believed in. It took Rob Reiner's relentless determination to resurrect it. He saw what no one else did, that this wasn't just a fairy tale, but a layered story that could charm both children and adults. Without his persistence, The Princess Bride might have remained just a forgotten novel gathering dust on shelves. Number 14, the hidden hands behind the swordplay. Everyone remembers the dazzling sword fights, but most people don't know the secret contributions of two hidden masters, Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond, two of the greatest stunt coordinators in Hollywood history. Anderson had trained Errol Flynn and worked on Star Wars, while Diamond was a veteran of James Bond films. Here's the gem. Instead of doing the fight choreography in secret and leaving it to stunt doubles, Anderson and Diamond poured their craft into training R.O.U.S and Mandy Patinkin personally, day after day. By the time filming began, the actors were moving like professionals, making every clash of steel authentic. And if you listen closely, you'll notice something extraordinary. The duel isn't just action, it's storytelling. Number 13, the fake accident that fooled everyone. During the kidnapping scene where Buttercup is grabbed by Vizzini, Fezzik, and Inigo, Robin Wright was supposed to be thrown onto Andre the Giant's enormous shoulders. But here's the secret. Andre was so nervous about hurting her that he insisted on carefully lifting her instead. To keep the illusion of a rough grab, the filmmakers staged a fake accident. They filmed Robin being gently placed onto Andre's shoulder, then shook the camera slightly and added sound effects to make it look violent. The audience believed Buttercup was manhandled by a giant, but in reality, Andre was so protective of Robin that he refused to risk causing her pain. Number 12, the director who almost walked away. Rob Reiner may now be celebrated for directing The Princess Bride, but during production he nearly quit the project entirely. The reason? Studio pressure. Executives constantly second-guessed his choices, from casting to tone to music. They wanted the film to lean more heavily into action and spectacle, downplaying the humor and tenderness that Reiner believed made it special. At one point, frustrated and exhausted, Reiner threatened to walk off the film. William Goldman, the original author of the novel, stepped in to convince him to stay. Goldman reassured him that what they were making wasn't just another fantasy, it was something unique that would outlive them all. The hidden truth is that The Princess Bride nearly lost its guiding hand halfway through. Had Reiner walked, the film could have become a generic 80s fantasy lost to time. Instead, he stayed and gave us a masterpiece. Number 11, the hidden meaning behind the grandfather's story. The film begins and ends with a grandfather reading to his sick grandson, a sweet framing device, right? But the secret is that this wasn't just storytelling. It was Rob Reiner's personal tribute to his own childhood. Reiner grew up listening to his father, comedy legend Carl Reiner, tell him stories when he was sick. Those moments were etched into his memory, so when adapting The Princess Bride, he wove them into the film. The grandfather wasn't just reading a book, he was representing the passing of love, humor, and family tradition from one generation to the next. Number 10. The studio thought it was a flop. When The Princess Bride was finally released in 1987, the studio didn't believe in it. They spent little money on promotion, unsure of how to market a movie that was part romance, part comedy, part fantasy, and part swashbuckler. Executives thought audiences would be confused, and they quietly buried it among other releases. The result? The movie underperformed at the box office. But here's the hidden twist. While the studio dismissed it, fans discovered it through VHS rentals and cable television. Word of mouth spread like wildfire, and the film became a cult phenomenon. What the studio called a flop turned into one of the most beloved movies of the 1980s, proving that audiences, not executives, decide which stories last forever. Number 9, the storm that almost destroyed filming. The stunning cliffs of insanity sequence, with Wesley chasing the kidnappers up the rope, looks like a grand, seamless adventure. But what the audience never knew was that the crew filmed those scenes during one of the harshest storms to hit the English coastline in years. Winds whipped against the cliff faces, making it dangerous for the stunt ropes to stay secure. Rain soaked the set so heavily that cameras had to be wrapped in plastic, with crew members shielding them with umbrellas. Wright later admitted she was terrified standing near the edges, the storm battering her dress and hair, while safety crews stood just out of frame with ropes in case she slipped. On screen, it looks like a fairy tale. Behind the scenes, it was a battle against nature itself. That hidden struggle makes every frame of the cliff sequence feel like a miracle preserved on film. Number 8, the hidden reason the movie still feels timeless. Fans often wonder why The Princess Bride hasn't aged a bit, even decades later. The sets are simple, the effects are modest, and yet it feels like it could have been made yesterday. The secret lies in Rob Reiner's bold decision to avoid almost all digital tricks or heavy Hollywood gloss. Instead, he filmed the movie like a storybook brought to life. The costumes were made with timeless designs rather than trendy 80s styles. The locations were chosen to look eternal. Rolling hills, stone castles, misty forests, rather than flashy sound stages. Even the music by Mark Knopfler was stripped down, emotional, and haunting rather than overproduced. Number 7, R.O.U.S was knocked out cold on camera. There's a moment in the film that looks like clever acting, but the secret is, it wasn't acting at all. When Count Rugen clubs Wesley over the head to knock him out, the scene was supposed to be staged safely. But Guest, known for his precision, swung just a little too close. The edge of the sword handle clipped R.O.U.S right on the temple. The blow knocked him completely unconscious. The footage of R.O.U.S hitting the ground is not a performance. It's the real thing. Reiner loved the authenticity so much that he kept it in the final cut. Number 6, Andre the Giant's hidden escape from fame. By the time Andre starred in The Princess Bride, he was one of the most famous wrestlers in the world. Everywhere he went, people stared. But on set, he finally found peace. Wright later revealed that during filming in the English countryside, Andre would sometimes wander the small villages at night. He was so enormous that locals were stunned, but instead of treating him like a spectacle, they treated him like a neighbor. Here's the hidden gem. For the first time in years, Andre got to feel normal. He'd drink wine at pubs, laugh with locals, and walk through the quiet streets without cameras flashing in his face. The film gave him more than just a role. It gave him a brief escape from the loneliness of fame. Number 5, the duel that was almost cut. The sword fight between Wesley and Inigo Montoya is often hailed as the greatest movie duel ever filmed. But here's the shocking secret. Studio executives wanted to cut it down drastically or remove it entirely. Their reasoning? It was too long and might bore audiences. They pushed for a faster, flashier fight. But Rob Reiner and William Goldman fought back. They insisted the duel wasn't just an action sequence, it was the soul of the film, a story told through swordplay. The duel we see today is almost exactly as Reiner envisioned it. Long, elegant, playful, and filled with character. If the studio had gotten their way, one of cinema's greatest treasures might have been reduced to a few quick strikes. Number 4, the Spinal Tap Hat and the Oscar-nominated Lullaby. Rob Reiner recruited Mark Knopfler to score the film, and Knopfler agreed only after joking about one small condition. Could Reiner hide a piece of this Spinal Tap memorabilia in the grandson's room? Reiner couldn't find the exact cap, but he slipped a very similar hat into the set dressing anyway. A wink between filmmaker friends that quietly rewards repeat viewers. Even sweeter, the film's lullaby-like theme song, the melancholy storybook melody that lingers under the final kiss, isn't a throwaway. It earned an Academy Award nomination. Number 3, the six-fingered glove that became a private trophy. When Wesley stares and says, "You have 6 fingers on your right hand," that moment lands because of a simple prop, a six-fingered glove. The production didn't rely on camera tricks. They made a physical glove to sell the horror and the history behind Inigo's vendetta. Here's the vault-level detail few fans know. Christopher Guest actually kept the glove. He's talked about owning that prop and even sometimes showing it off. A private relic from a role that meant playing someone who marked a life by a single monstrous difference. Think about that. A prop built for a quick reveal becomes a talisman the actor keeps, an emblem of the dark little wound at the heart of Inigo's story. It makes the scene feel handcrafted and personal, not cinematic shorthand. Number 2, the book's cut machinery, the darker good parts that never made it to film. William Goldman's original novel is a sly, layered thing, a fairy tale on the surface, and a bracing political satire underneath. The movie famously bills itself as the good parts, and that wasn't just marketing. Large slabs of the book, entire subplots, biting political intrigue, and even darker set pieces were stripped away in adaptation. The filmmakers deliberately sculpted the story into a lean, emotional jewel. That choice is a hidden treasure because it tells you exactly why the movie feels so timeless and so focused. It's not that the source was simple, it was fiercely complex, but the film chose the good parts on purpose. Number 1, the storybook frame that saved the film. Most people remember the grandson and grandfather scenes as a charming way to start and end the movie. But here's the secret. They weren't in the script at first. Rob Reiner and William Goldman realized during production that the story, as magical as it was, risked feeling too straightforward, too just another fairy tale. So they built the storybook frame, a boy sick in bed, his grandfather reading to him, as a way to anchor the wild fantasy in something everyone could relate to: childhood, family, and the act of being told a story. The hidden gem? Those scenes completely changed the tone of the film. They gave it layers, humor, irony, warmth, and an emotional landing strip that allowed audiences to laugh at the fairy tale tropes without dismissing them. Without Peter Falk and Fred Savage, The Princess Bride might have been a quirky fantasy that came and went. With them, it became a timeless ritual, a story handed down across generations, wrapped in love. That final line, "As you wish," hits harder not just because of Wesley and Buttercup, but because it's what every child wants to hear, a promise that a story never really ends. If you loved uncovering these gems, don't just ride off into the sunset. Hit that like button, share this video with a friend who quotes "as you wish" as much as you do. And make sure to subscribe to Vintaverse for more forgotten stories and cinematic treasures.